Hey everybody, Lieutenant Joe here for the Blue Heart webcast. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes today to talk about a topic for every law enforcement officer in every agency across the United States of America. The topic is the rise in left-wing violence. Now, right off the bat, when you say left-wing violence, there are a lot of people in our country that immediately turn around and go, what about right-wing violence? What about the skinheads? What about the crazy? Yes, there are violent people on both sides of the political aisle. There's absolutely truth to that. When we look at it, though, right-wing violence is often conducted by specific groups of people that have certain ideologies that tend to band together and go forward with their ideology. In recent years, though, can you think of any crazy right-wing groups that are attacking, starting riots, shooting people, killing political figures? They're always out there, and they're a danger, and we should go after them, just like we should anyone who's potentially violent or dangerous in our world. That's our job. But what we've seen recently is the rise in left-wing violence. Now, here's a little bit of a difference that I've noticed. Like I said, right-wing violent people, they have a tendency to be in militias or groups, and they're isolated from the larger group of conservative thinking people. Okay? I would be, if anybody on the right, politically on the right, attacked, shot, killed anyone that's politically on the left, I would call for their immediate arrest and trial, and hopefully the most severe penalty they could get for their actions. Even if I didn't like the left-wing person. That is not how we function as a society, right? When we start to use violence in our political matters, we start to devolve the entire country that we're dealing with. The difference here is that we see people on the left, not all. I have friends and family who are on the left, who are leftist kind of thinking people. But many of the average people, while they may not go out and commit a violent act, they agree with them in many cases. Let's think of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was just a guy expressing his opinion. Whether you liked him or not, you thought he was right or wrong, he was talking. He was speaking, and lots of people wanted to hear what he had to say. And somebody who hated him on the left climbed up on a roof and shot and killed him. And what was the reaction that we saw? Well, sadly, we saw the reaction of many people who are left-leaning, progressive, liberal kind of people. They were celebrating the murder of Charlie Clark. This is an ideological conundrum we find ourselves in today. So, like I said, people on the right, if they were to see violence, there are some nuts that would applaud it, but a very, very small part of the overall package of people who are conservative would never condone such a thing. But what we do see is our friends on the left who are politically left-leaning, who not only advocate for this violence, but they cheer it on when they see it because it meets their political needs. Now, this is a very difficult thing to talk about, but in law enforcement, we take a neutral stance, don't we? We go in and we look at people as human beings, as victims or accused, no matter their political leaning. But as law enforcement officers, we have got to be aware of this rise in left-wing political violence. Our country is going through a very strange time right now. And what we're seeing is that this violence is on the rise, and it's becoming more and more dangerous. And we're seeing more and more people applaud it, cheer for it. We're seeing our media going out there every single day and piling on with these narratives, these conspiracy theories that have a tendency to juice up these people that are politically motivated, but they're also a little unhinged. So we see these things. So when you work in law enforcement, we don't get to live in a political world of political narratives. That's not what we do. We live in a world of facts, threats, and consequences. Isn't that what we do? And since 2015, we have seen a steady rise in this left-wing violence. That's absolutely true. It's not because I sit on one side or the other. I'm just looking at the facts as a law enforcement officer. All right. So most recently at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, we had a guy pop up with a shotgun, a handgun, and knives, I think, and break the line and try and get in. And he's got a manifesto out, and he tells us what he's thinking, that his goal there was to attack President Trump and his administration who were there, his wife, everybody that was there. His goal was to kill them, to make a political point, because he was twisted in his thinking. And we see the guy, Cole Thomas or Tomas Allen, right? He's a teacher. He was teacher of the year. He seems like a normal, regular person when you look at his picture. But how did he harbor such homicidal, crazy thoughts that he would pull this all together and go attack the president of the United States? Whether you agree with the president or not, who would go and do that? And he left a manifesto. And his manifesto is very, very clear. If you read it, he says, I hope I don't hurt any Secret Service agents. That's not really my goal. I hope I don't hurt any security personnel or anybody in the hotel or guests. I just want the political targets. That's who he was going after. This is a depraved way of thinking. And his reasoning, and this is what's probably the crux of what I'm trying to get at. We talk about rhetoric and things that people say. I say all the time, words mean things. Well, when you have the political class on the left, you have the media, you have sports figures, you have singers, you have entertainers, people have high profiles out there in the world telling you that President Trump is a rapist, President Trump is a pedophile, President Trump wants to take away your rights, President Trump wants to be a dictator. When that is repeated over and over and over again, people like Cole Thomas Allen feel a need to protect the rest of the country from such people. Now, it is a twisted set of logic, but it happens all the time, and it's on the rise. So you need to be aware that when you have a political event, or if you have a protest, or if you have something going on, you want to make sure that you and your agency are prepared to prevent this kind of violence, whether it comes from the right or the left. But right now we're talking about this left-wing violence. So in New York recently, they had a protest, a parade, something going on, and two left-wing crazy guys had Molotov cocktail bombs that they threw into the parade. And we saw some heroic actions by police officers in the NYPD to protect those people there and take these people into custody. But if we go back not too far, in 2017, the congressional members have a baseball game. They usually do for charity every year. And we saw some left-wing nut go out there and gun down as many of the Republican people as they could. It was absolutely horrific. Steve Scalise, a big figure in the Republican Party, he almost died. This guy's out there with a rifle trying to pick off his political opponents. Justice Kavanaugh, we saw the horrible things that were said about this man with no proof. Because he's on the right, he has to be a pedophile and a rapist. And in high school, he was a rapist and he raped people. And then we had some crazy nut show up to his house where his family lives with guns and duct tape and all. He was going to break into the man's house and do violence to him. These things just go on and on. We saw the 2021 riots throughout the country. We saw people killed during those riots. We saw buildings burned. We saw police officers attacked with bricks and bottles. We see it all the time on the news. Officers, they show up at a scene and they get overwhelmed by a crazed mob who starts smashing the car, going after the police. We're seeing our ICE agents attacked openly when they're trying to do their job. We're seeing our political elements try to bifurcate law enforcement. We see some of these left-wing progressive politicians telling their officers, you cannot help the federal officers if they have a problem. You cannot assist them if there's a problem with the crowd. You cannot assist them if they're calling for help. Matter of fact, you particularly will stay out of their area. This is crazy. Law enforcement on every level has to look out for each other when it comes to a violent situation. So I wanted us to think about this, and only because of this most recent incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. It is part of a long line of high-profile attacks. You know, Charlie Kirk, you look at it, you see it. And I don't think it's going to end. Our country is at a boiling point of these opinions. And no matter where we are, we have to be aware that there are people on the right and on the left that can take their political views too far to the point of violence. And we can't have that in our society. We can't have violence, political violent activity in our society. It creates a dangerous world for all of us. And in law enforcement, we're the ones that are going to be sent to the epicenter of these violent incidents. So make sure you talk about this in your agencies. Make sure you plan for these kind of events and you train for these kind of events, because eventually I think it's coming everywhere, and we all have to be prepared so we can be safe and secure out there and maintain a safe and secure environment for our communities, for everyone who lives in this country. We should all live in a safe and secure environment where people can raise their families, go to the church that they want to do, interact with each other, and have a good chaos-free life. And who does that fall to? It falls to you, the men and women of law enforcement. So do the right thing. Pay attention. I write for The Blue Magazine, thebluemagazine.com. If you haven't heard of it, go click on it. It's an amazing law enforcement magazine. And I'll be writing an article on this topic pretty soon. It'll be up in there. And we all just need to be cognizant of the fact that this violence is on the rise. As political tensions in the country grow, so does the violence. Whether it's on the right or the left, it doesn't matter. Right now, we're seeing this left-wing violence. It's dangerous. It's dangerous for you, for your brothers and sisters that are out there, and for all the citizens we're sworn to protect. All right, so this is Lieutenant Joe for the Blue Heart webcast, telling you be safe out there and be well. We'll see you down the road.